Hello everyone. I've set up my vulnerable site. Today we're going to see one of the client-side demonstration on exploiting one of the client-side vulnerabilities, which is going to be cross-site scripting. Now, the vulnerable application that I created, it does have multiple server-side vulnerabilities, but I'm going to start from the client side today. And what we're going to be looking on is a demo for cross-site scripting. It's going to be a full demo. We're going to capture the traffic, validate using the JavaScript alert that there is an XSS vulnerability. And also the next thing is create the payload. After creating the payload, we're going to use that online service called webhook site that we can use to when we're doing pen testing. Maybe we testing to see if certain thing needs to be sent out. Then if you don't have paid version of Burp Suite, you're not going to have a collaborator. So there are actually alternatives. So I would like to demonstrate that here. And I'm going to be using webhook site. And the next thing is, like I said, this is going to be a full demo. So I'm going to be showing how to send a phishing email to the victim. When the victim clicks on it, the JavaScript executes and reads a cookie and sends. It uses a fetch API, send what it read from the cookie to basically send the cookie to the webhook site. And once we get the cookie, we're going to try to log in. And finally, we're going to talk about how to enable a setting called HTTP only. That way, if a JavaScript, even if a JavaScript executes, it's not going to be able to read the cookie. So with that being said, as you all know, cross-site scripting is a kind of attack where an attacker would convince a victim to click on some kind of link, and the link would actually execute a JavaScript in the browser and uh, either steal a cookie or expose some kind of personalized information from the browser about the victims. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing an attacker would do, obviously, you need to test to see if there is a vulnerability. Now, this is what the site looks like. This is a front end. The front end is created using React. The back end is created using Spring Boot. Now, to demonstrate this, Spring Boot by default has a Spring Security configuration where it would actually set the HTTP only feature to enabled. So I set that off. That way we can demonstrate this attack. The application is running right now, so let's go ahead. This is one. The chat is the one that has a vulnerability. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do is just to demonstrate, so it'll be a lot easier. I'm going to use two separate browsers. Now, the built-in browser that comes with Burp, I'm going to use it as an attacker. Uh, Actions the attacker would take, and yeah, my normal Chrome browser would be the victim's browser. So with that being said, let's start off with a browser that comes with, because we're going to be testing first with Burp. So this is the one. Let's just go ahead and do hello and send it. Now this traffic will be caught in Burp, as you can see here. Now there is no input validation, so it's just reflecting what the value of hello, and the server responds back. Now, the first thing we're going to do is an attacker check to see, test to see if there is actually a vulnerability that could be exploited. So we're going to test that with a simple alert JavaScript. Go open up a script tag. Now, Copy this and I'm gonna run it on the browser. This is basically at this point the attacker testing to see if he gets reflection. So I get XSS. So there is a vulnerability. Now the next thing is obviously the alert JavaScript is harmless JavaScript, right? We just used it. It doesn't do anything from the perspective of attacker. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use two things. First is document.cookie JavaScript. It allows us to read the value of a cookie. The second thing is we're gonna use a fetch a JavaScript API called fetch. Now fetch will take different parameters. We're gonna populate those. And we're going to replace that. So the first thing I mentioned earlier on is obviously an attacker, once he convinces the victim to click on a link and the JavaScript executes and reads the value of the cookie, and the attacker needs a way for the JavaScript also to send the value of the cookie. So in this demonstration, we're going to use an online service, a free service called webhook.site. What it does is it will give you a link, and whatever request that you send to that link is going to be sent here. So this is a link. You can use that for this attack. Now, if you have a paid version of Collaborator, that would be a lot easier. You could use that. But currently, I don't have on this laptop. I don't have a paid version, and also I do like to use a free version. That way, you never know. Maybe you need to test something. You might not have a pro version. So sometimes it's good to know you can do a lot of stuff just by using free tools and services out there. So the first thing is obviously where is the API is gonna send this request to, which is gonna be the webhook site link. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is obviously the fetch API is gonna have parameters, few parameters, not that hard. The first is what kind of request is this gonna be? For this to work, it needs to be a post request. And next one is what's called mode. This is talking about cross-origin resource sharing, and basically this needs to be set no course for the request to work. Obviously the last part is the important part is document.cookie that needs to execute, and it's going to be part of the body. So now we need to wrap this inside the script tag. Now, most of the time when you're sending your URL, an HTTP request, if you have on the request, if you have special characters, sometimes you might have the request might fail because of that. So what we do is what's called you need to encode it, URL encoding. So I'm going to use an online URL encoder. This is something you can actually do in burp as well, but like I said, I'd like to demonstrate that. We could use a free tool. Actually, burp, the encoding part is actually free, so. But I'd like to use this site. Now, now we encrypted it. We got the script. So next thing is obviously we need to replace it. Now the next thing what the attacker would do is obviously he would send it to the victim. So I have the browser open. What I'm going to do for this demonstration purposes, since this is actually just a demo, I'll just send it to myself. But basically, yeah, the attacker would have some kind of, this would involve some kind of phishing attack as well, because you have to convince the victim, like he put some information saying there's a promotion, click on this link or something like that, right? And you send it to the victim. And this is the last one. Now, the victim will obviously be convincing. Click on it. But first thing, obviously, the victim has to log in for this to work because we need a cookie to generate. All right. So just to demonstrate, if I actually go up here and if I go to application cookie, you should see there's actually 2 cookies. But to log in, we just need this one. Now, earlier on, I did talk about the HTTP settings, HTTP only. This is a setting. Now, if it's enabled, you would see a check mark next to it. What that means is, even though if you manage to find a JavaScript XSS vulnerability, if it executes, it's not going to be able to read the value of this cookie. All right, so the victim received the email. It's a link. He's going to click on it. All right. So the next thing we're going to go about, the attacker is waiting on that site. Let's go back. All right, as you can see, yeah, the attacker got these 2 cookies, but we're just going to need this one to log in. This is everything to do. This is a login session, as J session ID is what we need. So the attacker is going to go back, localhost 3000, sign in. Now this will be reflected. Send a repeater. I'm going to replace this with this one. Now, this page is actually, that doesn't need authentication. Since you already have an authenticated session cookie, what you need to do is actually route to an internal page. In this case, it's going to be welcome. And just go ahead and send it. And as you can see, this is welcome and all that stuff. What we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and try to see, look at this on the browser. Yeah, as you can see, I don't have any logged in, but I already have it. All right, so now I'm logged in as a customer. Now, as a victim, just to show you that I'm actually logged in and I can do some kind of damage. Maybe if I go to this, it would actually currently doesn't have, the service is not running for the specific application, but I can. So let's go ahead and try to see if we could do this. This is actually a good demo because I closed the browser again. Alright, so I'm still logged in. So this part of the application is actually not running. What I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it on. My application is just the application. Got to start. I believe is this one. Yeah, the application. So for this demonstration, looks like the application now. But as you can see, I'm logged in as this person, which is an admin in this case, by stating the cookie. So now that we demonstrated that, let's talk about how we can actually secure this. Now, I did talk about the secure. Now, by default, I'm using Spring Boot for the backend. Now, Spring Boot by default has Spring Security. It turns on what's called HTTP only, the HTTP only feature, which is if it's enabled, you're not going to be able to actually read the value of the cookie by executing the JavaScript. So I'm going to go ahead and terminate this. I'm turning it back. Basically, since HTTP only is turned false, means it is actually enabled, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute as well. All right, let us go back to the victims session. So let's go log out, log back in. Now, if we look in here, if you look in, there's a session ID. If you notice, so I think it still remains previous cookie. So what I'm gonna do is this will delete the cookies. think it's still resetting because. All right, that was not gonna be a problem. Let's use a different browser. It's opening up. All right, so it's up now. All right, let's take a look at inspect. As you can see here, the setting hasn't been applied yet. The HTTP only is still reflecting. Believe. All right, so let me. Okay, so I have two separate applications for the authentication, and this is for another application that is running with the vulnerable apps. So I didn't turn this one off. That's the reason why. But let's go ahead and turn this off. I comment this out, and then let's go ahead and terminate all the applications. And this one obviously would log off now. Let's go ahead and log this out for now. Clear. Now let me go ahead and start the first. This application is the one that actually authenticates the user. Let me apply the settings. And this is the one that has different apps. So I actually created separate apps, that way it would be easier for me to make change without affecting the other one. So let's go ahead, start this one as well. Now everything is up. Now let's go ahead, go back to first. Let's go back to the front end. Let's try signing in. Now let's check the settings, HTTP only. HTTP only right now is set up as true. What that means is even if I manage to execute any kind of JavaScript, it is not going to work. And we can demonstrate that as well. So I can go back to the previous link. That inside is actually, I have to log in, so let's open up a new window. I believe the one that has, okay, this, I have multiple emails open. New window. This is happening because I reset my browser. It's acting sporadic. Alright, so saying I believe the easiest way is I already have the link anyway. Yeah, I can copy it from here. So let's take it to the browser. Let's open up a new window. Let's think of this. All right, let's sign in as a victim. Now, if we check to see HTTP only is checked, what that means is just the session ID. Now, when I execute the JavaScript again using the payload, won't be able to read it. Now, I believe we still have the webhook is open, so I should be able to get something, but not the cookie that we want. Now, okay, execute it, but if we go back to the attacker's browser now, this is the old one that just came in, and as you can see it, this is 15 minutes ago. This is a few seconds ago. Now it has everything other unprotected cookies, but it doesn't have that protected the HTTP only. And we can also go back and look at it again, and you should see. Now if I were to go back here, it does have, this is the one that I need to log in. This is a session cookie, but this is not being read by the JavaScript because it is actually HTTP only. The only ones that are being read are these other two, which are not, where the HTTP only is not set. So, alright. So in this video, we captured the traffic, validate that it has XSS using the alert. Then we created the payload. Then we talked about how we can use a free service, webhook.site, to send a cookie, the stolen cookie of the user, and we also demonstrated how to actually send the email, and finally obviously log in using that stolen email. And we also talked about how do you secure the application. The HTTP only would actually secure it by not allowing the JavaScript to be able to read the cookie. It could read any other cookies where the HTTP only is not enabled, but not the one that has it. All right, that's all I have, and hope to come back soon. I'll probably post another video soon about the other server-side vulnerabilities. We have multiple. That's it. Thank you.